Section 4.2 Interactive Assignment Objective 1. Suppose the line y equals 2.8333x minus 22.4967 describes the relation between the club head speed in miles per hour, x, and the distance a golf ball travels in yards, y. We want to predict the distance a golf ball will travel if the club head speed is 100 miles per hour. So I want to give you a visual of what this looks like first. So what I've done is I've opened up Desmos calculator, and on Desmos I'm going to go ahead and put in the equation 2.833x minus 22.4967. Okay, and so notice that the y-axis again represents the distance, and down here represents the value for x. So the value for x is 100. We want to figure out what is the predicted value on this graph. So what I've done is I've generated this graph, and again I'm just going to go ahead and label this graph because we know that the y-axis is, this represents the distance in yards, okay, and then the x-axis is the club head speed. Okay, and so what we want to do is we want to be able to predict the distance a golf ball will travel if the club head speed is 100 miles per hour. Well, the club head speed is represented by x. So the first thing we need to determine is that x is going to equal 100 miles per hour. And then what we're going to do is we're going to plug it into our equation to find the predicted value. And y is going to be the predicted value once we solve for it. So using the equation y equals 2.8333x minus 22.4967. So we're going to plug in the value of x. So it's going to be 2.8333 times 100. And then we're going to subtract 22.4967. Okay, so again, we're going ahead, we're plugging in the value of x into our equation. And now let's go ahead and use our calculator to figure this out. So we're going to take, again, 2.8333, multiply that by 100. And then we're going to subtract 22.4967. Okay, and that gives us 260.8333. So 260.833. So what does that mean? That means if you look at this point right here, okay, the x represents the value 100, and our predicted value is 260.833, and that is going to be on the line. So let's go ahead and put that answer in there. It says round it to the nearest tenth, so we need to round this value to the nearest tenth, which then becomes 100, and that's 260.8. So therefore, let's go ahead and put that in there. 260.8, and therefore we would say that the golf ball will travel the distance of 260.8 yards. Okay, now the next question is, suppose the observed distance a golf ball traveled when the club head speed was 100 miles per hour was 265. What is the residual? Well, the observed means is that, okay, what is the point of when x is 100 and the value is 265. So let's determine the residual. The x value is 100 and the y value is 265. So if I went in here and I just plotted a point on Desmos, I'm going to put 100, 265. Okay, what it's going to do is it's going to put a point right on the graph, and if I highlight that, it's where 165 is. Okay, so I'm going to scroll in a little bit more, and you can see that this point is not on the line. Okay, the residual is the distance from this point to that line. So what I've done is I've zoomed on it a little bit more, okay, and it's asking us to find out what is the residual. Okay, so remember that the residual is the distance from this point to that line. Okay, now, if you recall that from our previous part A, we know that this point here that's on the line was 100, 260.8333. Okay, now in order to find the residual, we need to take and subtract the y values. So we're going to take this y value and then we're going to subtract this y value to then get the residual. So again, if we want to find the residual, okay, it's equal to the observed y value minus the predicted y value. Okay, and the observed value you can see here is 265. And then we're going to subtract the predicted y value from part A, which is 260.8333. So let's go ahead and take that value. So you got 265, and then we're going to subtract 260.8333, and that gives us 4.166, and I believe 7 there. Okay, so the residual is the distance from this point to this point. Now, this number should be positive because this point is above the line. If this point was below the line, then it would be negative. So let's go ahead and enter our answer. It says to round it to the nearest tenth. So if we round this to the nearest tenth, this is going to be 4.2. So let's go ahead and put our value in, 4.2, and there is our answer.